Hi guys, and welcome to the first installment of Tibia Mage Guides. I will cover mages from like level 8 to around level 500, and in this one we will cover levels 8 to level 50. And these guides will be covering both sorcerers and druids. They're very similar, so I'll just make one guide to cover both of those vocations. First of all, let's take a look at the assumptions and prerequisites that you need to have to be able to follow this guide. So first of all, I'm always assuming premium account. Almost everybody has that in Tibia now. I'm assuming some knowledge, experience with the game at least, or ability to research by yourself. Obviously, you know, Tibia is a 25-year-old game. I can't cover everything in the guide, or the guide would be 10 hours long. So, you know, if you don't understand something, you can either ask in the comments. I always answer to questions on the YouTube comments within a few hours, so you can do that in the future, or you can just research something that you don't understand. I do encourage you to do that because Tibia has a lot of mechanics that you need to understand at some point, so you may as well research it. I'm also assuming average magic level for your level. You know, nothing crazy. I'm going to be expecting somewhere around like magic level 50 in this level range. I expect you to have a little bit of budget money for equipment, spells, supplies, etc. Obviously, this can vary from basically next to nothing up to someone who's like really rich and has loads of other characters. So, you know, I will provide a different setup for like rich and poor players, but you know, you will need to have a little bit of money, and if you don't, then you will need to be hunting some profit spawns like say Amazon Camp to make a little bit of money from protective charms. And finally, one last note is that my guides are always primarily aimed at solo players. That's in my opinion, is the best way to make Tibia guides, because all of the stuff that applies to solo players also generally applies to team hunting, but that's not necessarily the case in the other direction. So obviously all of this will probably apply for team hunting, but you know, you may need to ask a few questions from the players you're team hunting with if there's some information missing from this guide. So anyway, that sums up the assumptions and prerequisites that you need to have to follow this guide. We move on to a very short vocation overview. Just if you're a really brand new player, just to let you know, mages in Tibia are squishy spellcasters. They're considered very hard to play, or at least much harder to play than knights and paladins, and also generally make a lot less profit at lower levels. So this is something to keep in mind if you're a brand new player. I would not personally necessarily be recommending a mage. I think probably knight or paladin is easier for brand new players. However, if you're set on mages, that's fine, and you can follow this guide. And like I mentioned, mages do make less profit at lower levels. That's because the supplies are much more expensive, and generally they kill a little bit slower, so they make less profit per hour. However, equipment is usually cheaper at higher levels. Best in slot equipment is usually cheaper for sorcerers and druids compared to knights and paladins, so that's a little bright side. And finally, druids and sorcerers in general are relatively similar. It's not really going to make a massive difference to you which one you pick. Druids have a little bit more utility and healing spells, while sorcerers have a little bit more damaging spells and focus on debuffs rather than healing. Druids specialize in ice and earth damage, while sorcerers specialize in fire and energy damage, which means that if a spawn is really weak to fire damage, sorcerers are bound to be a little bit better, or if a spawn is really weak to, for example, ice damage, druids are bound to be a little bit better like this. But generally speaking, the difference is very, very small, and you know, the difference in experience between sorcerer and druid at certain spots is usually like 1 or 2%, so nothing major, nothing crazy to worry about. And finally, I will talk a little bit about exercise weapons. These are weapons which allow you to level up your skills a lot faster. In the case of mages, this is the exercise wand or exercise rod, and this will make your life infinitely easier as a low level mage. This is not strictly necessary. You can use the offline training for a bit, but my personal recommendation is, if you can afford it, to spend at least around 2kk on durable or regular exercise rods and wands. This will get you somewhere around magic level 50, and that, in my experience, is sort of like a decent magic level to start in this level. So if you can afford it, definitely highly recommend it. Not absolutely necessary. I understand not everyone has the money, so if you can't do it, then you can't do it, but you have to accept that you will be making slightly less experience. Moving on to the next section, in these little tables here, you can see the key spells for this level range. So obviously this is not every spell that you can buy. Generally speaking, you should probably just buy every spell that is available for your vocation. However, in here, I just wanted to at least highlight the really important spells that you definitely want. And in bold, I've highlighted all the spells that you will definitely be using as part of your regular hunting, solo hunting. So those will be part of your rotation, if you will. You definitely want to be picking those up. They're very, very important. But every spell that's here in this list, you definitely want to pick up anyway, because they're all very, important utility. So yeah, not going to go through all of them. There's no need. If you need a full spells list for your vocation, you can just Google something like Tibia Sorcerer and go on Tibia Wiki, and it has the full list of spells. And I do recommend ultimately getting all the spells, but these are the most important in this level 8 to 50 level range. Moving on, next thing to mention is the play style for this level range and how you're going to be gaining experience and playing, or at least how I recommend it and how most people do it. From level 8 to level 12, you'll pick up your basic wand and rod and just be killing things single target using Apprentice's Strike, which is this first ability here that we get on level 8. This is like a weak fire attack. You'll be using that either, at swamp trolls or rot worms or something like this. At level 12, you unlock the first strongest strike, which is Energy Strike, which is very good. So from level 12, you'll probably be using wand and rod and then regular strikes. So that's Energy Strike at level 12, and then you pick up Flame Strike at level 14, Ice Strike at level 15, and you're going to be continuing single target hunting until approximately level 28, and then from level 28 up to infinity. At least this is the current playstyle for mages. Forever, you'll be using your basic attack from the wand or rod. Plus casting a rune like Thunderstorm, which is unlocked at level 28, Great Fireball, level 30, Avalanche, level 30, plus you'll be using some of your waves, and your UE, which stands for Ultimate Explosion from back in the day in Tibia, which is like your powerful ultimate attack that's like does a screen's worth of damage, does lots of damage, but that is unlocked at level 55, so it's kind of out of scope of this video. And yeah, this is basically what you have to be prepared for. From level 28, you sort of start using runes, and this is your big break point for making loads of experience, being able to make loads of profit because you're AoE hunting. So honestly, as a mage, you just really want to get to that level 28, and then it's really, really easy. There's some really great spots that you can start hunting from level 28, and it's just levels are going to fly by. The next thing I want to talk about is Imbuments. If you don't know what Imbuments are, I first urge you to read about imbuing on Tibia Wiki. It is an amazing mechanic in Tibia that is a total game breaker ever since it was introduced. So definitely recommend reading about it at the very least. Assuming that you know a little bit about imbuing, here are the 3 setups that I recommend. If you are just really rich and this is just your full-on twink setup for like your second, third character, you don't care about money, you're going to want to run 2 powerful Void Imbuments, 1 times powerful Strike and 1 times powerful Epiphany. Then the best value setup, if you can get someone to imbue you with a powerful imbuement, is, in my opinion, just getting 1 powerful Void in your helmet. This is usually what I do. I'm a bit stingy, so I don't usually spend like full-on twink setup. I think it's a bit too expensive and it's excessive. I find that for me, 1 powerful Void on a low level mage is sufficient. So I usually will just grab something like a Hat of the Mad and imbue it with powerful Void and just use that for 20 hours. And I'm happy with that. So I personally recommend that one. However, if you're very rich, obviously go for the rich setup. And the sort of cheap/new server setup is getting 2 times basic Void in your helmet and 1 times basic Strike in your weapon. So this is before powerful Imbuments are available on like new servers, or if you really can't afford it, or if nobody can make you the Imbuments, then you just get your basic Void in the helmet and like basic Void and basic Strike in your weapon. So that's my recommendation for Imbuments. Again, if you don't know what imbuing is, definitely read up about it. Super, super important. Now moving on to the equipment section. Again, I've sort of split it up correspondingly to like rich, best value setup, and cheap/new server setup. So as you can see, the sort of bottom 5 spots are pretty basic and they don't really change very much. We use Demon Shield and all of these, Platinum Amulet, Focus Cape, and Boots of Haste. The legs can switch. If you're really rich, you can use blue legs. Alternatively, you can just use web or loincloth in your legs. Doesn't really matter, not particularly important, so don't really focus about it too much. The 2 item slots that do kind of change based on your cost and the budget that you have. First of all is the helmet. In the expensive version, you use Mage Hat, which has 2 imbuement slots, so you can imbue it with powerful Epiphany and powerful Void. However, for the other 2 setups, I recommend just going with Hat of the Mad, which is cheaper to cheaper to run because you only need 1 imbuement, and you imbue it with either powerful Void or basic Void depending on your budget. Then for your weapon slot, in sort of the easy plug and play best value setup that I tend to use because I'm just quite lazy and I just like this easy setup, I just go with a wand or rod. Just make sure to always upgrade your wands and rods as they become available, so that you every few levels you get a new wand and rod. You can read up about it as well if you want. Make sure to always using the best one for your level. Alternatively, if you want to use a weapon because you want to use more imbuments, then I recommend using a sword, just a basic sword. And that one has 2 imbue slots. It's not very heavy, it has some defense value, so it's pretty good for like this sort of low level mage. You can imbue it with either Powerful Void and Powerful Epiphany if you've got this rich setup, or you can imbue it with Basic Void and Basic Strike. Sorry, I meant to say Powerful Strike in the previous section. But yeah, Basic Void, Basic Strike in the cheap section as well. And also I recommend forging it to a tier 1 weapon because it's really cheap. It really does not cost very much. And it gives you a little bit of extra damage, super cheap. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I again recommend reading up about the Exaltation Forge. It's really not very expensive or difficult to get a tier 1 sword, and it is going to give you a little bit of benefit. So yeah, that's basically my recommendation for a level 80 to level 50 mage equipment. Moving on to the next section, here is the list of recommended quests for this level range. So first of all, you're probably going to want to start on killing in the name of quests. So you can do stuff like crocodiles, tarantulas, badgers and mammoths, carnifilers, tortoises. I think you can do gargoyles maybe as well. I can't remember exactly, but if you hunt Mariana Gargoyle Cave, there's quite a few things that you can pick up there at the same time, so I'd recommend maybe looking into that as well. But the bottom line is you probably just want to get 20 points in this level range, so you want to finish maybe 6 to 7 tasks. It's really fast in this level range, especially once you hit level 28 and you're AoE hunting. You can get like a gargoyle task done in like 15 minutes or something, so it's definitely worth getting those 20 points. In addition to this, you probably want to pick up the killing task for Minotaurs, because you can only pick that one up until level 40 and then you can't pick it up again, so worth to pick it up and have it in case you ever want to complete it. You probably want to join the Explorer Society so that you can have access to Yalahar, because there are some good hunting grounds on Yalahar. You want to do it sooner or later, so probably recommend doing it in this level range. Moving on, we're going to talk about hunting grounds, both EXP and profit focused. So this is basically my suggestion and how I level my low level mages. So at level 8, not much to say. You can go to your rotworms, swamp trolls, lavas, stuff like this, trolls, whatever, right? You just need to get level 12 quickly. I usually personally go for rotworms, either in the Rasha or Liberty Bay. Sometimes maybe I'll go for like crocodiles and Port Hope, or swamp trolls and Port Hope. There's lots of places. I'm sure you can find some guides about this. Then at level 12, I recommend going either to Stone Refiners or Port Hope Corums. However, this does require you having a stealth ring, otherwise you will most likely die. So if you use stealth ring, those monsters don't see you, so it's really easy to just hunt there with stealth ring. If you can't afford a stealth ring because it's like a brand new world or whatever, then I recommend going to Edron Forgotten Tomb. Very good place as well. Moving on, at level 14, you've got access to Port Hope Tarantulas once you've unlocked Flame Strike. At level 15, you've got Minotaur Pyramid in the Rasha. So again, you will need Stealth Ring here if you want to go to the lower levels, because also, that helps. It makes it a lot easier, and it's pretty good experience at that point. And then at level 28 plus, like I mentioned, with AoE hunting, you unlock the best free hunting grounds, in my opinion, for leveling your mages. So this is Port Hope Corums on the lower levels, AoE hunting. You've also got Upper Spike, most likely also the Corum section of Upper Spike, which is very good. And alternatively, you've also got Gargoyle Cave on Mariana, which, by the way, you will need to do a quest for as well. I forgot to mention this in the quest section. You would need to look into the Shattered Isles questline if you want to hunt Gargoyle Cave. And I personally go for the Gargoyle Cave. I find that one the most fun, and it's crazy good experience. So if I were to recommend a particular path, what I do is obviously I go with this first section here. Then I go to Port Hope Corums on Stealth Ring. And then at level 28, I go to Gargoyle Cave Mariana. That is my progression, personal. However, all of these places are really good, so you can check all of those out. Moving on, I have some alternative spots, maybe less popular, not necessarily as EXP focused. You've got something like Elves Yalahar, Carnifilers, and Mutated Humans Yalahar. I think Mutated Humans Yalahar are very good. If you're quite an experienced good player, you can go to before level 30 and it's really good. I think if you go there from like level 20 to get that level 20 to 28 out of the way, it's very good. However, they do deal a fair amount of damage, so if you don't necessarily know what you're doing, maybe I would not recommend it. But just some alternative spots if you'd like to check those out. And finally, I have the profit focused spots in this level range. If you totally don't have any budget, you want to make some money, then this is how you would do it. From level 8, you would go to Swamp Trolls. I recommend Port Hope. Most likely. You can also check out Venore, but I prefer Port Hope myself. They drop medicine pouches, which usually go for a few K a piece, so you can make some reasonable money this way. From level 12, I can recommend Amazon Camp in Venore to loot protective charms, which are used in the Strike Imbuement. And from around level 30 plus, I can recommend Laguna Islands. This is Mariana, so also the Shattered Isles questline. There you can AoE hunt with Great Fireballs and loot Bloody Pincers from Blood Crabs and Tortoise Shells from Tortoises. Both quite expensive. And also at level 30 plus, you can go to Benuta and hunt apes to profit off ape first. So these are, I think, the best profit spots for this level range. All should more or less yield, I don't want to give a number, but at least sort of like Laguna Islands and apes should probably give you like 100 to 200k per hour, which is pretty good at this level range. Probably not quite as much on Swamp Trolls or Amazon Camp, but still decent profit for this level range. And honestly, yeah, this sums up everything I want to talk about in this guide. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more of these coming. I'm planning to make guides all the way up to at least level 500. So the plan is that I will be making a level range guide. So now I've made a level 8 to 50 guide. Now I will publish a few videos in this level 8 to 50 range. Once those are done, I will publish like level 50 to level 80 guide, etc, etc. So it'll probably take a little bit of time before I get to like level 500 and so. But you know, it's gonna happen. We're gonna publish 2-3 videos a week, so hopefully we'll get there in a few months. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you found this useful. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I do read the comments, even from like videos I've posted years ago. So even if you come into this video in 20, 30, 5 years from now, most likely if you leave a comment, I expect that I'll be able to reply within a few hours. So if something's not clear, if something changes in Tibia, if there's like a big update that changes something and you have a question, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next guide. Bye bye.